Hi, and welcome back to Tall Turtle Knits. My name is Stephanie, and this is my little corner of the internet. So today's video is going to be everything I knit in 2025. I do have the majority of them still in my possession. I only did a few gift knits this year, I think, so I will be able to show them off. But for the ones that I don't have, unfortunately, I wasn't thinking about having a channel at the time of knitting them. At the time, it was only like some faraway idea that I was going to do this. So the pictures that I have are not always great. Hopefully going forward, any pictures that I take will be much better quality. I mean, not hopefully, they're going to be much better quality. But for these older projects, we will need to just suffer through some of the rougher pictures. Hopefully you can still get the gist. I might end up throwing my 2026 goals at the end of this video. It really depends on how long it ends up being. I don't have that many projects compared to what I've seen a lot of knitters doing, or like knitting podcasts releasing. So I think I can fit the goals in. I don't have that many, like they're pretty easy to explain. I don't think it'll be too time consuming. So hopefully it'll be at the end. If not, I will probably put that in the next podcast video just to kind of lay them out, because it'll be a good reference for me as well at the end of, well, this year, the end of 2026. I am so hopeful you can't hear that music coming from my downstairs apartment. If you can, I'm gonna have to re-record all of this, which is gonna be a bummer. But unfortunately, my neighbors downstairs love to play music at all hours. So if you can hear that, I apologize. Hopefully it doesn't last too long. And if you can't, then pretend I didn't say anything. As always, my little cat Pretzel gets very interested when I am recording. So she may or may not make an appearance. She's kind of creeping around the bottom of the tripod right now, trying to figure out a way up onto the table. If you see her, that's just she's part of the channel. I should have named it Pretzel Knits at this point. But anyways, yeah. So before I really get into it, I just wanted to say thank you so much to everyone who watched my first video. I already have a few subscribers, and I never would have imagined that to be the case. I really thought that I was just going to be talking to the void for a while, and the thought that anyone watched even a minute of that video is really exciting. I hope that you enjoyed it, and I hope that going forward the quality continues to increase. I am learning as I go. I bought a light and I haven't really figured it out, so I mean, hopefully it didn't make it worse as I make improvements. I'm also going to buy a microphone. I bought one already, but it didn't work out for some reason. It didn't want to connect to my phone. So that will be next. For now, hopefully the audio isn't too bad. But yeah, thank you so much to everyone who watched it. I am so grateful for anyone's time that they decided to give me in my little corner of the internet. So yeah, thank you. I've recorded this in chunks on a few different days and a few different times and all of that, so the lighting might be slightly different and the angle might be slightly different. I am just trying to figure this thing out, and it's been a bit of a crazy week. So hopefully it won't be super noticeable, but I'm just figuring it out as I go. So hope you can still enjoy. Animals are particularly clingy, so you might hear Charlie kind of clicking around. She wants attention, and obviously Pretzel is here. But yeah, and obviously also right here, if I'm looking down to the left, that's where my notes are for the projects. So that's what I'm looking at. That's I think that's all of my PSAs I have to get out, disclaimers or whatever. So hopefully I can edit this beginning part into something reasonable in the end. Anyways, let's get into the projects. So I've completed 13 or 14 if you include the fact that I did the Tolsta Tee twice, projects this year, which exceeded my goal of 12. At the beginning of the year, I basically set out to do one project per month on average, which I managed to do and then some, which I'm very excited about. And most of them aren't garments, which is not standard, I think, for most knitting podcasts, but I'm very proud of all of the projects that I did and I learned a lot. So yeah, I'm going to include all of them here, and I'm going to be including the price of both the pattern and the yarn for each of the projects. I am Canadian, so everything that I'm saying is in Canadian dollars plus tax. I did the math to include Ontario tax, which is 13%. But I will include on the screen the US conversion, just to give my editing self a little bit of extra work, I guess. So my first project of the year was a gift knit, and the picture that I have of them is absolutely terrible. I'll pop it up now, but as you can see, it's rough. That picture, the only one that I have, was one that I took midway through the project because I was laughing at myself at how ridiculous they looked, and I forgot to take finished pictures before I wrapped them up for the gift that they were. So that's a little bit of a bummer on me. Anyways, so they are the Cable Knit Slippers by Janis Frank. I knit them in Lion Brand Wool Ease in the color Flint. Wool Ease is an 80% acrylic, 20% wool yarn. I think that it's like supposed to be a stepping stone into wool. It's very budget friendly, and that's why I purchased it, but I really don't like working with it. I've knit with it in the past a few times because it is a budget friendly yarn, and I just really find it to be uncomfortable in my hands. You may find it's different, but I think there's something about the acrylic and the wool mixture that just makes it extra uncomfortable, and I'm not an acrylic snob because I didn't know any better for the first several years of my knitting journey. So I didn't enjoy working with the yarn, and the pattern also had flaws, or there was an online free version that you can get to, and for some reason the way that the website or the page is formatted, the symbols that are meant to designate which row, it's like if row number star, if the row with the star is supposed to be knit 2, purl 6, knit 2, and the row with the diamond is supposed to be purl 2, cable, purl 2, all of the symbols were mixed up or like just wrong. So I think that that's what happened with, as you can see in the picture, one of my slippers being vastly different than the other. I think I must have figured it out that they were wrong in one and not in the other, which was a bummer. I ended up knitting 3 slippers and just figuring out which two matched the best in the end. But I also ended up purchasing the pattern in order to see the symbols correctly because I guess at the time my little peanut brain could not figure it out, even though I think I did on one of the slippers in the first place. It's hard to know. It was a whole year ago at this point, and it was a project that I knit really last minute. My partner's dad at Christmas was like, "Ooh, I'd like a pair of slippers." And I was like, "What do you mean?" And he was like, "Oh, you knit, right?" And I had never knit slippers before. I've never knit slippers since. And I didn't want to go felted, so I really went hunting for masculine slipper patterns. And I found this one, and I do like it. I like how they look. I think they're comfortable, but I was frustrated that the free pattern was ultimately not super useful. It's a pretty old pattern at this point, and I had gone and I left a comment to let the designer know that it is flawed, and I noticed that there's a couple other people who commented the same thing. So that's a little bit of a bummer. I'm a little bit annoyed at myself in retrospect for purchasing the pattern despite there being problems, but the purchase pattern didn't have the same problems, which I guess is all you can really ask for. But yeah, so I'm a little bit conflicted about it, but anyways, I knit them in the men's size 9 to 10. and that was accounting for my gauge being slightly off. So I believe I knit up a size based on my gauge compared to what my partner's dad would need. And he was excited about it when they got them. Him and his wife kind of joked about how they were going to fight over them, but I don't think I've ever seen them wear them. I've never seen them at the house, so I'm not really sure how much wear they actually get, which is fine, you know, no judgment. I do also think that I should have put something on the bottom of the slippers to make them a little bit more grippy, because the yarn just on hardwood floors is pretty slippery. So if I ever knit slippers again, which we'll see, I think I might look into doing something like that. So the pattern was $5.37. Yarn was $7.91 per skein. I used about 1.5. So the total project cost was about $17.24 Canadian, which not bad for a pair of slippers if they actually got worn. So the second and third projects are Musselburghs for my partner and I. I made two, obviously, both of them in Hawthorne fingering from Knit Picks. My partner's is this one, and it was knit in, I believe the blue is called Giribaldi, and the other side is called Astoria. Both of them, as you can see, are tonal yarns, so there is a bit of striping going on, which, don't use your claws, which I don't mind. I think it looks really pretty, but I'm not sure if my partner is as obsessed with. That said, she does still love it. They're her favorite colors. She picked them out. So I am super happy with how it turned out. She doesn't get as much wear out of it as I might have preferred. She tends to go back to an old beanie that she has, but hopefully one of these days I will get her wearing this more regularly. Mine, on the other hand, I just wore today, and I'm so grateful for because it is cold outside right now. It is knit in the colors Confetti, Sprinkle, and Astoria. So I wanted a fun side and a more neutral side, so that even if the neutral side is out, once you fold the brim up, it still has the fun color. As you can see on both hats, I kind of had, I did not evenly match the colors. I tried so hard to make sure that they were even, but clearly I didn't really win. Luckily, in the case of both, the side that went a little bit longer is, like, you can't tell. I tend to wear it this way, and you can't tell that I didn't evenly match it. So that's good. As for the yarn, so like I said, Knit Picks Hawthorne fingering, which is an 80% superwash Highland wool and 20% nylon wool. Not wool, just nylon. And I knit them both in the adult medium. If you happen to not know how the Musselburgh works, you knit basically a long tube of hat, and they fold up into each other, and then the brim folds on top of that. So you basically have 4 layers of fabric on your ears, which I love. Like I said, it is so cold right now, and the wind just goes right through you. So this has been an excellent addition to my wardrobe, I guess. The Musselburgh pattern does not require any swatching, gauging, like gauge swatching. You just knit a certain number until you can measure an inch, I believe, and then based on that, it gives you this gauge that you need to follow in the pattern, which I think is really cool. I don't remember what my gauge is, and I didn't write it down, but I know that for both hats, I ended up shortening them because neither my partner or I like the hats that have the extra fabric at the top. And I am happy with that decision, but I think that the way the decreases are done in the pattern are accounting for the fact that you're gonna have extra. So I think I don't really know because I haven't knit a ton of different beanie patterns, and most of them have the extra length on top, but it feels like maybe they are quick decreases to give it a certain shape. And so when I followed it with the intention of having it flat against my head, sometimes it just doesn't seem to stay flat against my head. Maybe that's just my head, but that is the only thing I've noticed. But that's not a pattern problem, that's a me problem. I probably shouldn't have shortened it without thinking about the decreases. But like I said, I still wear it all the time, so actual no complaints in the long run. As for the pricing, the pattern is $11.58. The yarn I got on sale for about $20.40 per skein, and I used about 60% of each one. So the total project cost was about $60.54 or $30.27 per hat. So not bad. The fourth project was a random stash bust project that I think I ended up giving away. It is the Practical Little Heart by Heidi Kirrmaier, and I knit it in the Big Twist cotton in the color Strawberry Stipple, which is 100% cotton yarn. I was thinking of it like a dishcloth as I was knitting it, and the bigger one is the one that's in the pattern. The smaller one I kind of guessed and fiddled my way through into making based with help from the original pattern. I put my notes in my Ravelery page if you are interested in making the mini ones, and I also added the I-cord. I just really wanted a quick knit to use up that random yarn that I had. At one point, I think I had considered knitting a bunch of them to give away as gifts, but I talked myself out of gifting dishcloths because it just feels strange to me. I don't know. That's definitely a me thing. I think I don't personally use dishcloths like that, so I think that's where it comes from. But regardless, I loved the pattern. I think I finished both of them in an afternoon and no real complaints. So that one, the pattern was free, and the yarn I just had sitting around for I don't even know how long. So Girl Math says it was also free, which means the whole project was free. My fifth project was an attempt to use up my leftover Hawthorne yarn from the Musselburgh Hats, and my intention had been to do like where the accent color was one yarn on one sock, ouch, and the accent color was the opposite on the other sock. However, as you can see, that didn't quite work out. I ran out of the gray yarn there, as you can see, and I'm pretty sure I also ran out of this Speckle yarn. Could I have avoided this by doing some math, by doing some measuring? Absolutely. Was I super stoked about finishing a pair of socks anyways? Yes. They're also vastly different sizes, despite the fact that I thought that I followed the pattern the same way in both, but clearly not. And as you can see, I just never bothered white weaving in the ends, so my cuffs aren't quite joined. There's some ends dingling around, and at this point I think I've kind of kept them mostly because of like nostalgia. They are the first pair of socks I ever knit, and I am proud of that because I really thought that I would never accomplish them. I remember trying to knit a pair of socks like 2 years ago, and I couldn't even get past the cuff for some reason. So these taught me that socks are not that scary, which is good. I used the Rye Sock by Tincanknits, and I knit both, not that you could tell, but I knit both in the adult medium. So once again, this is a Hawthorne fingering, which is 80% Highland wool, 20% nylon. The Speckle is Confetti, Speckle? Sprinkle? One of those two. The gray is Astoria, and the blue is Giribaldi. So, sorry about pretzel. So in terms of cost on these, the yarn was remaining from Musselburgh projects, which I estimated at about $24, and the pattern was free. So these are an estimated $24 total for this pair of socks, which are just for nostalgia at this point. So the sixth project actually continues my sock kick. My partner and I went to a local fiber festival last summer, I believe, and found some rainbow yarn that she really wanted me to knit her into a pair of socks. So at that time I hadn't even, I don't think, really knit any socks or not finished any socks, and so I was like, ooh, I guess we'll see, fingers crossed. It turned out, obviously, in the end that I'm pretty okay at making socks and I enjoy it, so it worked out. It was my first time ever purchasing yarn from an indie dyer, and I actually got to talk to the owner, which was really cool. And I hope I get to go to more for fiber festivals in the future, yarn festivals and stuff like that. I don't think that there are that many in my area. There are a few, but that are further out. These are the socks. I will just show one. They are rainbow striped all the way through, including the heel. There's the other one, just to show that there are two. So these were knit out of, it's called the Orange Octopus Sock Tentacles Rainbow Set. So Orange Octopus is the brand, and then the set was the Sock Tentacles set. I knit them using the Rye Sock pattern from Tincanknits, but I just didn't do the garter panel on the top. I knew from knitting it previously that I understood and liked the construction and how it turned out. So, and the pattern's free, so I just decided to go with that again. I did have to start them twice. The first time I knit them, I'll see if I have a picture, I'm not sure if I kept it. But the first time I was doing much thicker stripes, and I got 1 or 2 stripes in, and I was like, I don't think I like that. So I redid it, and I'm so much happier with how they turned out now. I did also, you can see if you get really close, at some point, I think right around here, I got it in my head that these stripes were one round, smaller than they were in the original sock. So in the first sock, each stripe is 8 rows, and in the second, starting after the heel, bye pretzel, in the second, starting after the heel gusset, I only did 7, which is annoying, but not annoying enough that I want to go back and do it again. The only thing it really, like the only visual difference is that on the sock with shorter stripes, I ended up needing to include another color just to make it the same length versus this one. I don't think my partner even noticed, so it just wasn't worth it for me to go back. I also randomly, there's one random pearl row. Don't know how I did that, but don't care enough to fix it. But yeah, so these, I love them. I eventually want to knit myself a pair because obviously, like I said, these are for my partner. I am really proud of how all of the color, like the jogs, turned out. Looking at it, I really can't see any obvious, I'm trying to find them. I think they're here. And, you know, the purple one's a little bit iffy, but other than that, I just really think they're not obvious, and I'm so proud of that, because obviously these are a lot of stripes, and there were a lot of ends. When I actually first finished them, I didn't even weave them in at all. And so my partner was like, what am I supposed to do with this? There's like spaghetti on the inside of the sock. It's still not my best work. I'm just turning it inside out here. You can definitely still see that they're all there. They are weaved in better than it looks like they are, but I didn't want to cut the ends too short because I really didn't do my best work with weaving. But I just wanted to do well enough that it wouldn't bother my partner's foot and she'd actually wear them. So that is my rainbow socks. I'm super proud of them. Okay, so the pattern was free, like I said, and the yarn was $34. I did have leftovers of every color in varying weights, but I'm just going to include the full yarn cost because the additional colors kind of just became scrap from for other things. So the total project cost for these socks was $34 Canadian. Also, I'm so sorry if you can hear the crinkling in the background. That is Pretzel. She decided to leave my lap and is now playing with some of her toys. We got her some new toys and she loves them, which is great, but not ideal for filming. So my 7th project was actually my first attempt at the Tolsta Tee, but I am not going to talk about that until I talk about the actual completed, still existing Tolsta Tee. So my 7th project was actually this top that I am wearing. It is something that I found from another knitting podcaster, knitted by Whitney, who's another Canadian, and she's one of the first that I found on YouTube, and I love watching her. She made in a pink color the same top, and she spoke so highly of it, and it looked great, and so I was like, I want to knit that. I'm going to knit that. So the pattern is the 03 Rib Cami by Eleanor Alice. I knit it in the size 8 in Lion Brand 24/7 cotton. The color is Magenta. So this color I actually have, I'm probably going to insert some B-roll or something of me standing so you can actually see this top. But Magenta is not a color I've ever really thought of before. I tend to lean more towards blues. But when I went into Michael's to purchase this, I was drawn to it immediately, and I was like, I'm making it out of that, which I'm so happy with. I actually think it looks really nice on me. I'm really happy with it, and it's a summer top, and it's definitely a more summery color. So yeah, I'm super happy with it. So the pattern, the construction is really cool. This is like the first finished garment that I've knit, so I don't really have a lot to compare it to, but you knit two triangles and then join them here. Knit down until you get to the bottom of the bust, I believe, or like maybe mid-bust, something like that. Connect in the round, knit all the way down, and then you do the straps last. So the straps are my only issue with this project, and it's not a pattern problem, it's a me problem. But they are double knit. It's the first time I've ever double knit, and I just don't think I really nailed them. I don't like that they are not perfectly lined up with the rest of the top. And I just don't love, like, I wish that I had just done them ribbed, knitted by Whitney, who I saw do it originally. I just did ribbed straps, and I think that I would have preferred that. Obviously not enough that I've gone back and changed it, especially since I normally wear something over top of it anyways. But that is my only qualm with the pattern. And like I said, it's not even a pattern problem, it's a me problem. So, you know. The fit on my bust, I'm super happy with. I do wish I'd done a few extra increases. I did do some. There's so much shaping customizability, is that a word, in this pattern. So I did do some increases, but I wish I had done a little bit more. I think just at the bottom it's a little bit tighter than I'd prefer, and I think that has to do with the bind off. I wanted to do the surprisingly stretchy bind off, but because I was playing Yarn Chicken already and just barely won, I just don't think I really did it properly. I think I only did the extra stitch every few stitches or something. So the cast off isn't ideal. The fit's incredible. The pattern's so cool. You can customize it in so many different ways. Like if you have a smaller hip waist, you can do decreases, you can do increases like I said. And yeah, I'm super happy with it. I'm super proud of it. It is also bra friendly. I don't know. I think I didn't quite nail. I don't know why I'm trying to do this. I'm going to put B-roll in so you'll see. But it is bra friendly. I didn't quite nail where I put the straps. So there's just a little bit of visibility in the back. But it doesn't bother me even if I wasn't wearing something over top of it. And like I said, I do tend to wear something over top of it anyways. So it doesn't matter. So the pattern cost was $11.58 and the yarn cost $9 per ball. I needed all of 5 balls, so that is a total of $45 for yarn and a total project cost of $56.58. So project 8 brought me back to socks again. I found a pattern by Summer Lee, who is like a prolific sock designer, and they are shorty socks. I'm not really a tall sock person, so I was super excited to see like a designed short sock. And yeah, so I just decided to go for it. And they are 2 slightly different, like the base color is gray for both, but I included different colors of my rainbow yarn, as you can see, just to kind of use it up. And I think they're so cute. Like, goodness gracious, come on. I'm obsessed with them. I think they're adorable. And yeah. So, the pattern is the Weekend Shorty Socks by Summer Lee. I knit them in size large. The gray is Knit Picks palette in Finley Heather, which is a 100% Highland wool. And then, like I said, the sock tentacles are, did I say that? Anyways, the sock tentacles are 80% superwash merino and 20% nylon. So these stripes in the middle aren't part of the pattern. I just included them as a way to use up a little bit more yarn. And my like commercially bought socks that I like are the ones with the support in the middle of the foot, and I thought that that kind of gave that effect without, not that anybody's looking at my socks in my shoe, but I'm so happy with them. I think that they turned out super cute. Obviously you can a little bit tell that on this second sock I had fewer color options than I did on this one. Or vice versa, sorry. So this one has the gray, green, purple, blue, and yellow, and this one just has purple, blue, yellow, and orange. And I love them. I think they are so cute. They fit me super well. They are slightly different sizes somehow, but not enough that it really matters. I think maybe it was a blocking thing. The pattern was free. The rainbow yarn cost I included in a previous project. So just the gray Finley Knit Picks yarn was $4.96. So these socks were $4.96, which let me tell you, cheap. Love that. So project number, what are we at? 9 is my Tolsta Tee. You guys got a bit of a sneak peek at it if you watched my previous video. But like I mentioned, I knit it twice. The first time, I will include pictures if I can. The first time the neckline was just a little bit too wide for my preference, and I tried to adjust the pattern myself and put in some extra increases around my hips and didn't nail it, so they just kind of looked like wings. And rather than just kind of sit there and have a shirt that I was never going to wear, I decided to completely frag it and redo it, which I am very proud of myself for doing, because each time that I knit it took about a month, and the first time I knit it, it was my first ever garment, so I was pretty distraught by the fact that it didn't work out. But now I have a shirt that I like and is super cute. The stripe pattern I came up with, oopsie dipsy. The stripe pattern I came up with myself. I literally just went into Excel and figured out how many rows approximately for the entire shirt there were going to be, and then divvied it up. So each chunk, like between a green stripe and the gray stripe, is I think 9 rows. So I just went from 1 gray, 1 green, 8 gray, 2 green, 7 gray, etc., etc., until the bottom The only stripe that I'm a little bit iffy about is this very bottom single row gray. it doesn't bother me enough to go back and redo it, but it does feel like it's out of place, even though I did the same at the top. For some reason at the top it doesn't bother me, but it does at the bottom. But yeah, the only mod I actually ended up making, I did make two. So the first is that for the collar, since on my original attempt I didn't like how the collar ended up sitting, I only cast on the number of stitches for, I believe, size either 6 or 7, when the rest of the shirt is knit in size 9. And I did that so that the collar would hopefully be narrower. And then I just did extra increases after the collar to get me up to the size, to the number of stitches that I needed to do the rest of the pattern. And then I made the sleeves a bit longer than what the pattern is. So in the pattern, I believe it's basically just like an inch after your pickup that you're supposed to do the ribbing. And obviously I did, I don't know, three-ish. I was basically just trying to match the stripe pattern. And I got to a point where the amount of rows that I wanted in the ribbing would be equivalent to the whole green stripe. So that's how I made that decision, and that's how long the sleeves are. Other than that, I knit the pattern as written, and it's a great pattern. Rebecca Clow is a great designer. I mean, I don't have a lot of experience, but I love her designs. They're super clear. She includes bust darts in this pattern, so the shaping around the bust is great. And yeah, the only thing with her that at least in this project, I could not achieve her gauge to save my life. I think I knit 3 or 4 different swatches and none of them really even got close. So my size 9 that I knit was with the intention of hitting the size 6 measurements. So that's the only thing, and like I said, that isn't a designer problem. I think I've heard of that with a few different designers or different podcasters saying about different designers that they can't hit the gauge. I am pretty new to gauge swatching. I normally only knit things that I just don't care about the gauge. So yeah, I don't really have anything to compare it to, but t-shirt, it looks great. I would definitely knit this pattern again, and yeah, I think that's all I have to say about it. So the pattern cost $13.53. The yarn, I used 11 skeins of yarn total. Oh, the yarn is CotLin from Knit Picks. CotLin in the gray color is called Silver, and the teal green is called Shoal. So I used 11 skeins of that yarn. It's a little bit, it's an imperfect calculation because obviously when I frogged, I lost some yarn. I don't think I ended up taking out the original collar. It just went into my bin of scraps and that kind of thing. But we're gonna call it 11 skeins, and that costs about $107.07. Grand total project cost of $120.60. So yeah. So project number 10 is a pattern that I have knit before. I kind of just chose it because I knew it was something that works up relatively quickly and I know how to do it. But it is the Jason's Cashmere Hat by Melissa Thomson. This is probably the nicest yarn I've ever purchased. I bought it for a project that didn't end up working out. I'm still debating about going back and like frocking this and trying it again. However, it is in the Knit Picks City Tweed and Harbor Seal, which I didn't write down what it is, but it has, I believe, merino and alpaca in it. It is so soft. it just feels great. So yeah, I knit it because the project that I had originally planned on knitting with it just didn't work out, and I was not purchasing any new yarn, so I was like, well, I need to use this for something. I will probably end up donating it if I don't decide to go back and do the project. It's a little bit small on me for some reason. Well, not for some reason. I have a big head. So it doesn't really fit me, but I'm sure it would fit somebody else. It's super warm, it's super soft, and yeah, I love this hat. It's a great pattern. If you have somehow never knit the Jason's Cashmere Hat, I highly recommend it. The pattern's free. It is cabled, but I just don't, like, they're not super complicated cables. The repeat is very simple to remember. I don't need to keep this pattern in front of me the whole time that I'm knitting it. And it looks like something you could buy at the store, if that's something that you're into. So this took about 1 1/4 skeins of the Hawthorne tweed, the city tweed, but I'm going to include the price of 2 full skeins, balls, just because I don't really know what I'm going to do with 3/4 of a ball of DK yarn. We'll see one day. But so the pattern was free and the yarn was about $19.17. So that is the total project cost for this hat. And we are on to the last set of projects. The final 3 all go together. One of them was a gift, so I'll just have to include a picture. But the other 2 are stockings for my partner and I. I am obsessed with these. This was my first real attempt at color work, stranded color work, and I think they turned out really well. Like, this is the first one that I knit out of the 3. And obviously you can see that there is some weirdness along the edges, but in general, I'm so proud of these. I'm so proud of these stockings. So the pattern is Woodland Stockings, Big Animals by Alison Lutz, or Lutes. And the pattern actually comes with 4 colorwork charts, or well, 5, because the foot part is a separate chart, but 4 animals. So there is the moose, the bear, the fox, which is the gift that I knit, and then I believe the fourth was an owl. So 4 different charts in the same pattern. I knit all 3 in Knit Picks Brava. The red is called Wine, the gray is called the gray is called Dove Heather, and the green is called Dublin. I'm really in love with these stockings. This one is mine, and it is my favorite of the 3. I think that these little fish are so cute. Ooh, that fish got a little bit mixed up. Let's look at the other side. So, got the bigger fish and then little fish, the bear, the mountains. Yeah, I just could not say enough how much I love this. And obviously, I think that I tensioned everything pretty well. Here's the inside if you're a person who's curious about floats. Considering that these were my first attempts at color work, and I really don't think I knew anything about color dominance, so there's a few places that are a little bit iffy. I think they turned out great. The pattern is still super legible. You can recognize that as a bear, and the background is mountains. And so, yeah, I'm really proud of them. That's ultimately all I really have to say about it. So, the only mod that I made to all three, I made the same mod. The pattern has the cuff in a different design. I think it's like a chevron design. And for some reason, I could not wrap my brain around it. I could not figure it out. So I just decided to go with a 2x2 rib. I don't think that you would be able to tell that it's not 2 pattern, but it is technically a mod. So the pattern for all 4 color charts was $14.28, and the yarn was $21.86 for a total per stocking cost of $12.05. So yeah, considering that I am going to be using these for many seasons to come, I think that these projects were well worth it. And honestly, I think I finished each one in approximately 2 weeks. So they worked up really quick, despite being something that I was not super comfortable with going into, like having never worked color work. But I was just so excited to get to the next section. And yeah, so my bear and my moose. So my grand total for the whole year of spending for these projects was $375. I don't think in the grand scheme of things that that's very much. I have heard of people spending upwards of that on a single project, which is not judgment, for the record. I am someone who has a lot of finance related anxiety, so I do feel a little bit unsure about having spent that much money on it. I think particularly because I haven't gotten a lot of wear out of all of my items yet. So the stockings obviously were up all month, and I am happy with that. But the socks, other than the shorties, I haven't worn very much. And both this shirt and the Tolsta, I haven't worn very much because I'm just more of a hoodie person. I tend to wear sweaters as soon as it is cool enough to get away with wearing them. Plus, I am still figuring out my personal style. I don't really have a style. I don't really know what colors look good on me. I don't really know what I prefer to wear. It's always just been kind of function over form. And so going into 2026, that is something that I want to be mindful of. As I'm picking out patterns and yarns, I want to think about what I really am going to enjoy wearing. On that note, we're going to see if I can squeeze this in at the end. My 2026 goals. I would like to exceed my number of projects from last year. So last year I finished 13. This year I would like to do 14. Of those 14, I would like 4 of them to be garments, which might be pushing it. But my thought is that my cardigan is already about halfway done, I hope. And I want to do at least one sleeveless top or vest. So I'm hopeful. I'm going to set my goals potentially a little bit lofty, and we'll see where they land at the end. Because I'd rather ask for too much than too little at this point of myself. My other goal is related to this channel. So I want to do 2 videos per month minimum, 1 podcast episode and 1 other. So this video, I hope, is going to be released on the 14th-ish. I'm looking at a calendar. Yeah. My goal, I think, is for Wednesday releases. I don't know if that makes the most sense. I guess we'll find out. I have to kind of be mindful of when I can record and edit. And so my goal is Wednesdays, every other Wednesday. So this video is, hopefully you're seeing it on the 14th, or, whenever you see it. But hopefully it was released on the 14th. And then my next knitting podcast video will be out on the 28th. And my goal for that video is to have finished my mittens, my kitten catch mittens that you saw in the previous video, and to have at least one sleeve done on my cardigan, or, you know, to the ribbing. I'm not going to be finishing any of the ribbing on the bottom of the sleeves and cardigan until I am 100% sure that everything is long enough. Just because the thought of having to rip back ribbing is not ideal. I already have an idea for the video that will be released the first time in February, and yeah, so I'm just super hopeful, and I hope that you want to stick around. I really want to connect with everybody. I have a few questions that I'm going to be asking in my next podcast video for one of the projects I have coming up. I would love any input, any more experienced, or like even just if you have any advice. But yeah, so thank you so much for watching. If you watched all the way to the end, I appreciate you so much. Let me know which of my projects was your favorite, which of your projects from last year was your favorite, anything that you wish you had done differently or that you're looking forward to changing in 2026. And yeah, just say hi. If you don't mind, give me a like, feel free to hit subscribe, and I will see you next time.